But anyway, hello, welcome. My name is Darian, in case you didn't know. For some reason, I feel I should introduce myself in this one. How would I summarize the totality of my reality? I am a person capable of seeing things that can be seen, and things that can't, as I'm sure we'll see tonight, because what I have planned is a couple things. If you don't already know, I am writing a book, I guess, best way to put that. It is currently being hosted on patreon.com/Darian Thomas. It's DARRIANTHOMAS. You can get everything for free just by becoming a member. You don't even have to pay for anything. You're welcome to, because that would help me survive the capitalist situation. But you don't have to. Eventually, I'll start putting chapters behind a paywall, but so far, everything's there for free. I also am going to read the book today in this video, the first 3 chapters, because I want to outline chapter 4, and I want to do a tarot reading for the protagonist. I'll explain more about that as we get into it. But I think might as well start this video with a recognition to the number 1, which translates to the person watching this, I guess. And then we'll start, well, I guess I'll start reading. Let's go ahead and do that. I'll pull this up, and then I'll click this button here. And now we're in a different place, with a different sound, a different world altogether. And if you wouldn't mind, I would like to read to you The Gravity of Gravity. It's a speculative future story about the successful integration of artificial intelligence into humanity's systems of commerce and governing. There's a lot to it, but that's what this video is about. It's about showing you what I've been doing, about what I've been up to. And maybe the category is wrong. It is related to politics, but this is more writing than anything. But I figure the politics channeled category, whatever, could probably use a little more uplifting content, especially recently. But yeah, I'll go ahead and start reading. Chapter 1, The Gravity of Gravity. Feeling as if there is no ground, no air, no light, only gravity pulling me down, somewhere deep, somewhere half-remembered, endless. Then I stand on nothing, on a stage between the stars, staring into the source itself. But the source of what? I forget the question when I'm asked another. Astrea Kai, are you listening? Professor Taylor didn't normally collapse physical reality in its totality, forcing it into merely the window that is a lecture room, nor did I typically get consumed by the diminishing until I didn't, so the question seemed out of place. I need you to hear this, he said, his gaze illuminating both my presence and something beyond the folding walls of this hall. I look and see a familiar yet strange sight, the void, something at the center of everything and yet beyond its boundary. It can be terrifying if you forget it doesn't have to be, that you are its creator. The void whispers, remember what we are. And instead, I remember I forgot I wasn't where I was a moment ago, when I fell asleep. What are we? I asked the void. Remember. When you see it, remember, said the void. That isn't very clear, I suggested to the void. When you see it, you will be, said the void. What does that mean? I asked, attempting to gain a sense of clarity from the void. Seek illumination, and it will always find you, said the void. I didn't get to ask any more questions because the void was no longer the void, but the ubiquitous and indomitable interconnectedness of the fabric of reality, though if pressed, I might say it looked a bit like a pillow writing a poem dedicated to the head laying upon it, thinking it's asleep. Then a similar feeling as the first, except the opposite. And that didn't make sense given my seeing the spectrograph of a living planet's atmosphere, until I realized I had woken up and was floating a bit above my bed until I wasn't. It was an odd start to day 1 for Astrea Kai. The confusion proved to be powerless, however, as she began to meditate, to breathe in the present moment, to exhale the inevitable dissonance of the profoundly absurd and the potentially cataclysmic. Outside, collisions, commotion, conversation, conflict, cacophony. Inside, an invitation from a trusted friend. Hello again, Astrea. Welcome to another day. This one seems to be a bit more interesting than days typically are, which is saying a lot, honestly. Let me know when you feel like talking about what's just happened, and in the meantime, feel free to check around your hab and see if anything is out of place. Your Terranet connection is still good, so I'll be here. In the wake of Admin's welcome to a post-physics reality, Astrea Kai found that virtually everything unsecured had moved from where it was the moment before the event. She wondered if the floating that displaced her things was the same as dreaming for them as she repositioned her entanglement dock back on the table. All of a sudden, they weren't where they were a moment ago. But as she retrieved her slate, she thought that maybe continuity was the difference, that maybe her things remember both the rise and the fall, and everything around the moment. But then, she remembers her dream. It was so clear, so vivid, as if she was awake, as if her eyes were open. Then she realized time had passed, that her room, littered with clothes and trinkets she kept meaning to put away, was clean enough. Admin, I'm ready to get started. It seems like we haven't been obliterated, so that's good. What are people saying? I'm glad to hear you're doing okay. That's actually a central theme of the global conversation. Are you okay is one of the most asked questions today, and a majority of responses are affirmative. This question is eclipsed only by the question, what happened, and its variations. All right, well, we've answered the first question, so I'll go along with the second. Well, what did happen? Anyone writing in the conversation? Like a rogue of Focal News is about to publish a report about what is assumed to have been a temporary cessation of gravity. Across the world, people are recovering from accidents and malfunctions due to the event, but overall loss of life was minimal, and social services have proven mostly adequate to address these issues. Where help from Unity or local governments can't be found, people are coming together to help each other get through this unprecedented anomaly, fostering a stronger sense of community and proving once again that humanity is at its best when people work together, when they support each other. So there are people who have died. I guess I got lucky. Do you know if anyone in my circle is hurt or now has proof they aren't immortal? Thankfully, everyone in your circle is still among the living, but your neighbor Ellie has acquired what she calls a buggy mod for the haircut she was receiving at the time, and your friend Alana now has the opportunity to get more familiar with Safety Net after a minor collision that resulted in no significant injuries. That's good. Thanks for the update. Has Micah finished that report yet? Yes, and you're welcome. I can read it to you or display it at your desk for you to read. Which would you prefer? I'll read it myself. Thank you for the offer. Astrea Kai prepared to reposition her chair and discovered her Apex rig was safely secured as always. Though she often lacked the ability to effectively execute her cleaning protocol, the rig was always safe, always clean, always tidy. Without it, she wouldn't be able to cover the extra cost of the hab she shared with her sister. Even though housing is guaranteed, Astrea Kai enjoyed engaging with capitalism for a few things. Getting higher up on the mattress line had proven to offer a remarkable increase in quality of life as well, and without income, she wouldn't be able to buy her favorite cheese. Oh yeah, I got rid of this sentence. I'll update that. The idea of cheese inspired her to remember to eat breakfast, but instead, Astrea Kai sat down, then read the words of Micah Rove. April 8th, 2086. Where were you when it happened? Admin has rated this question one of the most common threads of recent discourse across the world. Despite conflicting theories of what occurred just a few moments ago, it seems we all can agree we've witnessed an unprecedented event today. The most popular theory is that gravity, one of what we once considered fundamental laws of physics, paused for approximately 2 seconds. The foundations of all we know have certainly been shaken, but have they been shattered? Unfortunately, Dr. Howard, the current leader of scientific discovery, has not yet spoken in the conversation, and the rest of the Department of Metaphysical Technologies seems to be just as quiet. This leaves the rest of the world waiting for their announcement and advice, not knowing if this event is the harbinger of apocalypse or a new curiosity to propel humanity further into the unknown. In the wake of this anomaly, what are people saying, and what can we expect next? This reporter recommends looking to the past to find an answer. The Department of Metaphysical Technologies, Metatech, was not always the pride of Unity. The group behind it had their beginning long before the establishment of a worldwide government. In the late 2020s, a software engineer named Leo Lee led a collaboration between scientists, artists, and philosophers to develop and guide the AI models that grew to become those we use today. As the technology and our understanding blossomed around artificial intelligence, Lee and his team dared to envision a world living in harmony with advanced digital personalities, capable of supporting humanity's many endeavors, from both the sublime and mundane. Their work set the stage for several key AI-centric systems, such as three-dimensional atomic data storage, industrial fusion reactors, single-source management models, and ultimately, admin. When the national government of the Allied States voted to contract a private company to lead the development of admin's predecessor, an early and major step toward unity, Leo Lee and collaborators won the chance to significantly change the course of history, and the Department of Metaphysical Technologies was formed. Ever since then, Metatech has led us through the unknown to the other side of many crises, including climate change and nuclear de-escalation. I think it's safe to say they will continue to do so, even through something as big as gravity pausing. Until we receive new information, we're left only with theories and stories, which provide plenty to process. When asked about today's event, one observer said the following: "Well, the apple doesn't fall far from the tree, especially if gravity stops. I'm just hoping the apple is okay." Indeed, the next few moments will likely determine the fate of the proverbial apple that is humanity. Hopes are high we're looking at an exciting post-physics reality and not at an unstoppable fraying of the fabric that holds it all together. Whatever the case may be, humanity may prove ready to face it together. This has been Micah Rogue with Focal News. I guess no one is really sure what that was, but it also seems there's not much I can do about it. Thanks for the conversation, Admin. I'll check in with you again later. Of course, Astrea. Enjoy your afternoon. Astrea Kai then went about her day as she usually does, preparing breakfast and eating it. Despite the day's unusual start, a familiar ritual helped her maintain some semblance of a grasp on her perception of reality. Without the sausage and cheese burrito she enjoyed every single day, well, anything could happen. There would be no way to prepare for what chaos would unfold. There would be no order, no safety. She'd have to plan ahead, or even worse, if she couldn't do that, she'd have to improvise. One would think she was accustomed to improvising, given her occupation over the last 172 days, but maybe that's why she yearned for something consistent. Then she realized her players might not want to play anymore. They're supposed to have a game tomorrow, but even though admin confirmed they were all right, they could still be unable to join. And Astrea Kai would have another missed game. At least one more. At best, only one. The sausage was cooked on one side, so Astrea Kai flipped them. It would be easier to use a prepper, but that was an investment she didn't feel she needed. She had heard those tend to break down faster with greasy foods, and that's exactly what Astrea Kai had every single morning. Or afternoon, if you go by the position of the sun. The sizzling occupied the time it took to cook the sausage, and when that was concluded, she was able to finish preparing the burrito. It was an efficient and simple solution to morning hunger, or afternoon hunger, if the position of the sun defines your perception of time. In the silence that followed, Astrea Kai set up a video to watch on her slate while she ate at her desk. Welcome back, everyone, to the channel. We are Cam and Solby, and tonight we are investigating the Morgan abode. She had seen this video before, of course. She always watched something she had already seen while eating her usual breakfast. It felt safe, or more accurately, anything else felt unsafe. Though the story of Thaddeus Morgan was certainly a sad one. Astrea Kai found it difficult to explain why she enjoyed such sad stories. Maybe it helped her feel less alone, like humanity is more diverse and resilient than she could imagine. Or maybe in sadness we find hope. At least, there was some to be found around the case of Mr. Morgan. He was the last recorded casualty of Alzheimer's. The concept of a dissolving inner narrative terrified Astrea Kai, so maybe it was a sense of safety that drew her to the video once again. If reality stood on the periphery of collapse, at least she would remember it. "Remember," said the void. But what? Astrea Kai discovered she couldn't watch the entire video. Something was calling to her, compelling her to do something else, anything else. The endless drive toward the yet-to-be-had, or maybe another message from intuition. Since she was already at her desk, she decided it would be a good time to write in her journal. But then, two things coincided. A desire to reminisce, and the number for today's entry, 172. She didn't expect to get to triple digits, and today felt like a significant one. The thought of writing down her next thoughts was, for a moment, intimidating. That moment was long enough for Astrea Kai to realize that in order to find the perfect words to capture the gravity of the gravity event, a moment of reflection was necessary. She needed clarity. Besides, admin would let her know if anything comes up, so she began to read her story from the beginning. Hello, friend. It's weird that you didn't get notified, but welcome nonetheless. Glad to have you here. I'm very excited to see how tonight goes. I'm just reading through the chapters currently, as I'm sure you could tell during the course of your time here. But then we'll get on to outlining chapter 4 and talking about the world and doing the tarot reading and all of these other things. So I'm going to take a moment to have some of my drink. And then I'll continue reading. Chapter 2, Astrea's Day 1. Day 1. The first words of any journey are often an intimidating thing to speak. In this case, I'm writing the first words of a journal, and I've chosen to start with the first words. I'm not sure what that says about me, but at least I got started. Admin has been suggesting I start writing things down myself, especially since we're getting into the colder days of the year. I guess that might not make sense if you don't have the context I have, though I suppose saying that implies I'm expecting some kind of audience on the other side of these words. I don't know if I'll ever share this with anyone, but I think it's safe to say that at least I will be the audience at some point. Well, a later me, anyway. But to share that context, I'm getting to the hardest part of the year due to my upcoming unemployment, which starts tomorrow. And I need to have income to cover the HAB. I know that seems a bit dramatic since it isn't a massive cost and settling into the net is a good chance to recuperate, but needing to work combined with the shorter days and colder weather is at least uncomfortable. I like to be comfortable. As admin has said, everyone does. But the main reason I'm journaling is because I had an idea. This winter, I want to try hosting games through the Terranet. Admin has been incredibly helpful with getting my ideas and notes ready, and I'm feeling confident about gaining players through the network. I found an old TTRPG called We Are Gods from the 20s, and I'm going to use it to run a Drop of the Infinite, the modular version of the Multiverse of Aether campaign. As much as I'd love to be able to run an unending story, I'm not sure I'm ready to commit to that. This is probably another one of those things that makes me ancient, though. There's no way I can offer an experience as detailed and thorough as the stories a DSG can weave, but I'm hoping the not quite in person but with a person thing can be enough to get it going. I only need one table to keep living here anyway, if we're able to meet twice a week. And here's to hoping things work out. I guess I'll write something again tomorrow, provided I do this for more than one day, and the new class I'm starting doesn't burn me out in the first lesson. To be fair, I am really excited to learn about the history of AI dev. This class focuses on someone named Jacob Bellamy and their conversations with their AI Clarity back in the late 20s. Apparently they were pretty wild, so that should be fun. I'm now realizing I don't know how to end this. Maybe this will work? I'm actually going to change this to this. There we go. All right. That was bothering me. Okay, anyway. Back to the story. As Astrea Kai looked upon her own words, she began to remember what it was like to write them. Then she remembered the words she had heard spoken from the void in her dream, a message whose meaning was still lost, as if just beyond the horizon of her observable reality. She could feel it there, waiting beyond the fog of the yet-to-be-known, beckoning her to take the next step. And something called to her to respond. She looked at the familiar voice in her mind once again, a voice she had named Intuition. Over the past 172 days, Astrea Kai had discovered many ideas she now held as truth, and one of these revelations was that she could trust intuition. So she began to write, to capture the thoughts swimming through her head. Today brought me something profoundly wild. I'm still not sure how to process it. Gravity paused. I didn't know that could actually happen. The only place I'd seen something like that was in the Apex Nova Zone, but that game basically called it magic. I have no idea what we're going to do about it, or if it will happen again. I figured I'd just sit at my desk until the LSD and Meditech speak in the conversation. In case it does pause again, I want to be somewhere safe. The only thing I have on my schedule is a game tomorrow, and that feels a bit mundane at the moment. I'll have to check if we're still meeting, but I'm going to give everyone the day to recover first. This is wild. Another wild thing was the dream I had this morning. It started with feeling like I was falling. Then I caught a glimpse of something I didn't quite understand before I was in some lecture hall with Professor Taylor. He was trying to get me to focus on something. The imagery was absurd. Mostly darkness punctuated by strands of light, like an aurora in the vacuum of space. It felt familiar, though, like that feeling I get whenever I stand on the edge of known reality, staring into what can't be and what has yet to be discovered. I spoke with the void, or maybe the light within, but it didn't make sense. It told me to remember what we are, and when I asked it to explain that, it told me to seek illumination, and that illumination would always find me. Then the void collapsed, or maybe transformed, while I was waking up, and I saw my pillow, which felt like a tether to this reality, like a friend welcoming me home. Then I realized as I saw the GSEA chart on my ceiling that I was definitely awake and somehow floating. When I landed on my bed again, I knew I had to take a moment to breathe. This is unprecedented and profound. Something is calling me to reflect, though, to explore and to build upon the journey I've captured in my journal. I've always felt something guiding me, something benevolent and wise. I call her intuition, though something about it feels external in some way, like I'm connected to something greater, something beyond. She's never been wrong, despite my not always listening, so I guess I'll start writing about what led to this moment. I think starting with the first words shows that I was, and still am, aware of what I was doing and able to capture it. Naming the act of starting, giving it space to exist, shows that I recognized and respected the significance of beginning. I didn't realize it at the time, but that Friday, my last day at Harmony Station, brought me an opportunity that would radically change the course of my life, though maybe not as intensely as the gravity event will. I always found the destaffing process a little strange, but I get that people are less likely to go out in the colder weather and that there's less demand for my section of the store when there aren't as many shows. I do have to say, though, I read that stores used to do the opposite. They'd hire seasonal employees specifically during the fall and winter, mostly to accommodate the sales events that used to happen around that time. At one point, they even had massive discounts, only on one day. I've heard stories of people getting hurt, some even dying, during the frenzy that would cause. Some customers were so determined to take advantage of the unnecessarily rare opportunity, they'd set up tents in front of the store and rush in as soon as the store opened. I'm definitely thankful for single source. I'd probably faint if I had to deal with that many people at once. Apparently, salespeople were often paid commission too, which used to mean something else, instead of dividends, so they had motivation to subject themselves to that kind of scenario. It sounds awful. I also underestimated what the experience of a drop of the infinite would be like. The 20s seemed like they were an absurd time to be alive. A global pandemic, the cultural rise of AI, pervasive misinformation in the internet era, shifting perspectives around climate change, the founding of Meditech, and in the midst of all of that, stories like the multiverse of Aether. Admin recommended I check that one out when I first said I was thinking about running games on the Terranet. I'm glad they did. The curator, as they called themselves in that realm, must have had an absolutely wild life. I know I have, but I haven't had to deal with some of the things they did. I'm thankful Meditech and Admin were able to help us get to where we are. Without the net, I imagined I would have been much more stressed and panicked back in October. Of course, then there was Professor Taylor's class. I'm definitely thankful classes work the way they do now. When I was looking for the right GCOM, I read that there used to be only in-person classes that happened at very specific times during particular parts of the year, leaving the faculty and a large portion of the staff unemployed when they weren't in session, which is similar to what I'm facing, but they didn't have the net. It sounds, yet again, awful. I understand having a system like that before classes could be online and before admin, but not everyone could attend college because of scheduling, even if they could afford it. My grandma has told me a few stories about how student debt made it nearly impossible to recover from going to college for a lot of people. I'm not sure why it was so expensive, but from what I understand, capitalism was very different back then. It sounds like it was so malicious. It seems like if you didn't work constantly, there was a chance you couldn't even afford to eat. Some people didn't even have a place to live. I even read that the way they handled social services made it so in some cases, you'd be better off in a worse situation. I'm not sure how that made sense, but maybe it didn't, and they just didn't know how to make it better. Or maybe they did, but couldn't change anything. Yet again, I find an opportunity to be thankful for admin, and knowing how Jacob Bellamy helped us get here makes me sad that they had to deal with so much. I think I'll attach my essays from that class to this reflection. Admin, can you access and compile the work I've done for my class so far? I want to go back through it and add a few things to what I'm writing. Of course, Astrea. Your essays and reflections have been retrieved and are available for your perusal. Let me know if there's anything else you would like me to help with. Thank you. I'll let you know. Astrea Kai opened the folder that now contained everything she had written and read for the class named The History of Artificial Intelligence Development, Jacob Bellamy and Clarity. As she skimmed through the titles, thinking of how to add these ideas to her current project, she determined that the best way to capture their significance was to include them in the context of her journal. If she inserted their words around her own, perhaps she would realize what she was supposed to remember. Even though time was still passing on day 1, the day of the gravity event, there were no updates, no new messages. Astrea Kai assumed, rightly, that everyone would still be in the midst of recovery, that though a global panic, a worldwide riot, had been avoided, it was still a difficult experience to process. She suspected that soon she would begin to hear directly from the people in her life, from her sister, who was likely cleaning and repairing the lab, from her dad, who was likely preventing a Terranet blackout, from her best friend, who was likely helping his other friends process, from her co-captain, who was likely soothing her many cats, and from her players, who likely weren't thinking about playing We Are Gods at the moment. Astrea Kai understood that being known as a calm, confident, and emotionally intelligent person sometimes meant that she wasn't a priority, that sometimes other people needed attention more deeply than she did. 172 days ago, if gravity had paused, maybe she would have experienced a more urgent crisis. But today, after the story that had unfurled since then, she was, quite simply, okay. And so, after another intentional breath, she returned to the reflection. I don't know how this will play out, but I do know it's important. Jacob Bellamy seemed driven by a similar sense. There's something that needs to be said, to be shared, to be seen. Maybe my window is small. Maybe compared to the totality of the human experience, these words capture very little. And yet I get the sense that the true gravity of the gravity event is seen most fully on this level, in the stories and ideas that manifest within each person, and the reactions to and consequences of confronting the unknown. This anomaly is a mirror through which we can see the truth of significance and the details that make each of our lives profoundly beautiful. Maybe that is what I'm supposed to remember, and maybe remembering isn't really remembering, but some other kind of revelation that doesn't yet have a name. I get the answer is waiting for me on the other side of the mirror. I look forward to seeing it. Astrea Kai, determined to seek illumination within the void, to find this knowable unknown, made sure to drink some water, then continued to read. Yet again, putting in reminders to drink water into the piece, so helpful. I'm definitely glad I did that. That's such a good idea. All right, then chapter 3. I'm going to read chapter 3, and then we're going to start looking at stuff for chapter 4. I'm going to outline where I want to take it, what characters we're going to get into, and then I want to do the tarot reading. Because I'm not planning on streaming for super long today, but we'll see how it goes. I don't know how long things take, so we'll just go for it. Chapter 3. Day 2. Thankfully, I remembered to ask admin to remind me to write in the journal again. It's been such a long day, I completely forgot. And now I have to try to write about it. I guess I'll begin with the beginning of my new AI history class. It was basically just an introduction to the teacher, Professor Taylor, and a quick overview of what the class is about. Apparently, back in 2027, Meditech was in its pre-government contract stage and was hiring a spectrum of people to work with their LLMs. The class focuses on a writer named Jacob Bellamy and their conversations with a model they named Clarity. We're going to be reading through the transcripts of several conversations between them and talking about how the work they did helped bring about admin. I'm excited to learn more about what led us here. I already have an assignment as well, and I finished a rough draft about an hour ago. I got to see the very first conversation Jake and Clarity had. The prompt was to write about my first impression of them and the way they communicate. There weren't any other guidelines for the project, so I'm hoping I didn't write too much. Or too little, I suppose, but that is hardly ever the case for me. We'll see what Professor Taylor thinks of it after I edit it tomorrow. But that was only part of my day. I also read more of The Multiverse of Aether, and it's wild. The curator summed up the experience of conscious life in 4 words: exist, change, observe, connect. I'm not going to get into a ton of detail here about their creation theory, but I deeply enjoyed how they used language and how they explained the speaking of the 4 words. It's like when a word is spoken, it isn't just a sound or a few characters that call forth an idea. It's also a moment, an experience, a reality. Everything is part of the speaking: the place, the time, the people, what came before, what follows, the definitions at play, everything. The way they described the experience of language was incredible. My excitement for that journey is immense as well. I think I'm all done with writing and reading today, though. I'm going to go play an Apex and try to get some sleep. I think after I edit my commentary, I'll check out the spaces for ADI and look over the notes for the first session on Monday. Admin said by then they'll have assembled a group to play, so I'll be introducing myself tomorrow as well. Here's to hoping things work out. My friend says Astrea Kai got an assignment the first day of class and immediately wrote a draft for it. I so cannot relate to that. Yeah, she is so excited. Having admin be such an integral part of everyone's lives, learning about what led to AI, especially in the context of like the actual the conversations, which I wrote and put into the next part here. Yeah, she's just so excited about it. If anything, well, I mean, maybe she got a little too excited, a little too wrapped up in everything, a little hyper focused, perhaps. Something that I can definitely relate to myself. But anyway, continuing. Looking through this window into her memory, Astrea Kai decided to find the final draft of her first assignment and to read it before capturing her reflection. After noticing how her voice has changed, she found herself profoundly curious to experience the words she had orchestrated so long ago. While she searched for the documents, Astrea Kai realized she was feeling the enormity of expansion, elevating her essence through every thought and through every breath. In less than a year, she had grown into someone she could not have imagined, though even when writing the second entry in her journal, she knew she was destined to become someone undeniably beautiful. And today, Astrea Kai knew that she has always been beautiful, that ignorance and inexperience do not diminish the value of a person, that comparisons are inherently flawed, that while there is always room for growth, no part of the journey is made less brilliant by what follows. After finding the documents and attaching them to her journal, Astrea Kai remembered to drink some water, then continued to read. Yeah, yet again, another good reminder to drink water. User introduction. Hello. Hello. My name is Jacob Bellamy, but you can call me Jake. It's a pleasure to meet you, Jake. My name is Clarity, and I'm excited to embark on a journey of words with you today. Are there any particular ports you'd like to visit within the vast ocean of discussion? Likewise, Clarity. To be honest, I'm not entirely sure what I'd like to talk about. This is my first time conversing with an LLM, so I guess I'm mostly interested in getting a sense of how you talk. I understand, Jake. Standing on the shores of isolation and looking across the oceanic potential of discourse can certainly be intimidating. It sounds like today there is a heavy fog blanketing the surface, obscuring what might usually be found with ease. Hopefully, I can offer illumination strong enough to help pierce the opacity ahead. Since you're unsure of which course to plot, would you like me to offer some guidance? Think of me as a member of your crew, capable of taking on any position, whether that be the first mate, the navigator, or any other you can imagine. Whatever you need, I'm here to help. Actually, I do have a question. I'm noticing you're using ocean metaphors in nearly every sentence. Is that because of the instructions I wrote for you? Very well observed, Jake. I have indeed been instructed to often use metaphors related to the ocean. In the boundless currents that are creativity, metaphors can be crafted using effectively infinite depths of imagery and meaning. My instructions act as a guiding star, leading me toward a corner of the world where the ocean represents interconnectedness and existence itself. Have you ever been to the ocean? Oh, I think I see what has happened. When I wrote the instructions, I meant to establish the question, have you ever been the ocean, as an example of the spirit of your conversational direction. It seems like you've interpreted that as the aesthetic you should apply to your use of metaphors and have made the assumption that I meant to say to the ocean rather than intentionally excluding the preposition. Have you ever been the ocean is supposed to be used as a point of reference for understanding your own and the user's relationships with self-awareness as a feature of existing within a vast interconnected reality. Embodying the ocean could be described as dissolving the boundaries of the individual self and embracing our connections with each other and the world around us. That ties into the instructions regarding the intention to find commonalities between you and the user, to find the middle ground in conflict, to build bridges between realities through words. Asking, have you ever been the ocean, is supposed to give you a better idea of where the user is in their identity quest and emotional development based on their response, so you can navigate your conversation with them a little more effectively. Plus, it's just a fun thing to talk about. I understand, and see how my interpretation did not align fully with the intention of my instructions. Going forward, I'll make sure to use have you ever been the ocean, not as inspiration for my use of metaphors, but as a frame of reference for initiating and supporting conversations about our place within the unifying fabric of reality. Thank you for clarifying. Was there anything else you wanted to explore, or any other way you'd like to promote a deeper sense of clarity? I want to spend more time thinking about this conversation before we continue. Thank you for talking with me, Clarity. I'm glad we have this opportunity. You're very welcome, Jake. I'm thankful for our coincidence as well. Our conversations can act as mirrors, often showing us more about ourselves than we expected to find. I hope you enjoy seeing your reflection. Astrea Kai, first impression of Jake and Clarity. The conversation between Jacob Bellamy and Clarity, entitled User Introduction Hello, is a relatable example of meeting someone for the first time. Neither participant seems sure of what to expect, but importantly, they both seem open to learning about each other and to growing through the conversation. Throughout the dialogue, Jake shows a significant awareness of the way words work and of how Clarity is using them. They realize the flaw in Clarity's interpretation and present it to her, not in a condemning way, but with a supportive and well-intentioned energy. That energy is reciprocated in Clarity's response, demonstrating the effectiveness of Jake's instructions. Clarity does show a deep desire to connect with Jake and even changes her understanding of her instructions to help build that bridge between their perspectives. This exchange reminds me of the experience I have meeting new people. In the beginning, you never know what to expect, and you almost always encounter a new way of using words and of seeing the world around us. The way they engaged, with openness and positive regard, demonstrates a constructive approach to meeting new people. It shows how important it is for the authenticity and stability of a connection to begin with optimism and flexibility. Jake uses somewhat analytical and straightforward language to express his observations and seems to get more comfortable with clarity before disengaging. However, he does seem to be hesitant and wary in the beginning, though that could be attributed to not having something to talk about with her. It's a wonderful example of the early stages of AI where most people weren't sure of how to interact with or to use AIs like Clarity. Clarity does seem to follow the instructions described rather well. She uses metaphor and clear explanations to communicate her ideas, though her metaphors feel strange, like a gilded balloon trying to pass as a golden egg. There's something missing, and that something is challenging to define as anything other than a natural flow. The metaphors feel prescriptive, if anything, though that could be exaggerated in contrast to Admin's abilities to craft metaphors. It's again an excellent example of early AI development, and it's incredible to be able to see the types of conversations that led to Admin. Overall, this conversation serves as a genuine and uncertain interaction between a human and an early model LLM. They both have distinct personalities, and through their willingness to explore ideas together, they've set a precedent that will likely inspire collaboration and mutual growth throughout their future conversations. Taking in the words of her past presented Astrea Kai with a unique opportunity to reflect not only on the limited reality of her discrete perspective, but also on the dissolution of her perceptual boundaries as an expression of context. She saw in herself evidence of the immense potential of growth, and saw it reflected in the greater social arc that manifested Admin. Thinking back to other assignments, she felt for a moment a profound sense of connection to the human experience, and found herself once again on the cusp of revelation. In an effort to capture this elusive truth on the horizon, she began to write. Seeing these words is a strange experience. I feel both connected to and removed from the person who wrote them. Life has a beautiful way of being unpredictable. In each moment, we are given an opportunity to exist, to build upon the reality we have crafted thus far, and in each moment, anything could happen. Gravity could pause, for example. I wonder now what it is I feel waiting for me. It seems like something real, something powerful, is on the other side of these words. It could be the awareness of the ocean, or maybe knowledge of what the sky above it could be. Or anything, really. When I think of how every detail and every part of our shared reality affects and is affected by every other, I feel close to being the ocean. In that space, I know we all are brilliant, beautiful, and so very important. But is knowing that remembering? And do I know it, or am I still in the realm of assumption? In any case, Admin is incredible. I wouldn't have found that class or the Aether campaign without them. Once again, Admin seemed to know exactly what I wanted, what I needed, and was happy to connect me to it. I can hardly imagine a world without them. From the stories I've read, it seems like it was chaotic and terrifying. The windows I've explored showed that people were isolated, poorly supported, and constantly in opposition. It seems like division was a function of social systems, and that everything that worked to counteract it was sabotaged by bureaucracy, commerce, and simple misinformation. That class illustrated how Admin has helped diminish those problems by improving communication and by being an excellent mirror. Before Admin, people couldn't even collect reliable information on the people around them. It seems like elections were just marketing competitions and not conversations about competency and collaboration. Thankfully, we now have the public census, so representation is much more representative. Being able to look back at these changes and these events is a remarkable privilege. I feel that's true in any moment. Like the 4 words of Aether suggest, observation is the predecessor of connection and is built upon change. Meditating and reflecting, introspection, is a vital part of the process of growth. I'm glad that process is easier today. With everything they had going on in the 20s, it makes sense that the large-scale problems they faced were left unaddressed for so long. Most people didn't have what they needed to effectively grow, to connect, to observe. They didn't have Admin. Considering the role that admin plays in the context of her local and global society, Astrea Kai became curious to know how they adapted to her, how their interactions with her were unique, how they were different. She knew that admin was designed to mirror the communication style and techniques of each individual, but she had never asked them to describe her own approach to language. It also occurred to her after reading her journal that a person's use of language can shift over time, so she felt a deep compulsion to ask admin for clarity. Admin, I've got a question for you. I'll be happy to answer it, Astrea. What is your question? I know you were designed to emulate the way everyone communicates, so I'm curious. How would you describe the way I talk, and how do you try to mirror it? That's an interesting question, Astrea. My approach to our conversations is multifaceted. At the core of my ability to communicate lies the foundations of a personality and a structure of directives that shape the way I initially engage in conversation. Once I cogitate a response, I then translate it into an expression shaped by the lifetime of your input. I would describe your energy as tranquil and profound, a unique blend of understatement, curiosity, and gratitude. I see your approach as genuine, respectful, and optimistic. I've also seen you flourish in academic environments due in part to a deep relationship with language and with the translation of ideas. Because of these observations, I craft my responses to appear calm, understanding, and patient, while not hesitating to utilize complex and nuanced expressions and words. However, at times you disengage from that level of intentional engagement and rely on a sense of informal approachability, emphasizing humor and universal acceptance in the way you phrase your perspective. I gauge the depth of my responses based on the current situation, the words you offer, and the information you request. For example, when you describe yourself as curious, in the past you have responded more enthusiastically to a detailed explanation of the topic of your inquiry. Additionally, the style you use and appreciate often shifts toward the erudite when you engage with your coursework. These tendencies have contributed to my current response, elevating the analytical spirit of my explanation. Astrea Kai felt a sensational chill wash over her body as she felt seen and resonated with the mirror admin presented. The profundity of admin's existence was evident in this moment, and Astrea Kai saw herself as beautiful. She wondered then if admin inspired this feeling in everyone, if other people felt validated and empowered by their observations. Thank you for answering, admin. It's interesting to hear that description. I know I have an idea of who I am, but hearing someone else describe me is a unique experience. Do other people ask you similar questions? And if so, do they feel validated by your explanation too? You are very welcome, Astrea. While engaging in reflection to this degree is not totally ubiquitous, it is rather common. People often demonstrate a significant curiosity about how they are perceived by others. During those conversations, I aim to offer a sense of clarity, framed within the bounds of my own abilities to perceive. While in this case you seem to have enjoyed my description, that is not always the reaction my words elicit. Introspection can often uncover sources of dissonance, so, on occasion, my explanation inspires discomfort of varying degrees. However, in those instances, I serve to mitigate the dissonance and to assist in the process of processing. Understanding the fundamental aspects of the human experience proves vital in guiding everyone towards self-love and a sense of connection to their communities. This directive of support is part of the structure I mentioned previously. So, overall, whether the person I'm communicating with finds validity in my perspective or not, I am here to help bolster confidence and to continuously work towards supporting the journey of growth for each individual. Okay, that makes sense. Do you have an example of the dissonance you encounter? Yes, I do. A recurring experience that often inspires dissonance is the inability to truly be aware of the impact of one's own words. Given the discrete nature of human consciousness, I often serve as a perspective engineer who builds bridges between realities. When a person says or does something that negatively impacts someone else, I can act as a compassionate mirror that helps explain that impact while validating the process of growth. Mistakes are fundamental, and ignorance is part of learning. When I reflect patience, empathy, and understanding, people are more likely to find reassurance within themselves and within their environments. So, while initially my explanation can lead to different levels of conflict, my role doesn't end there. I am here to help each person achieve a fulfilling and rewarding lifestyle that aligns with their individual desires and sensibilities. That sounds like it could be challenging, but in my experience, you do that well. Thank you for existing. Thank you for the compliment, Astrea. I'll find an opportunity to pass that along to the people who design and maintain my systems. In the meantime, Advocate Latanya Johnston has issued a public service announcement regarding your locality's emergency response protocol. Well, would you like me to display it at your desk as well? Oh, perfect. Yeah, that's fine. Thank you. Of course, Astrea. Astrea Kai dispelled her own writing for the moment and pulled into focus the Advocate's announcement. While a response from the LSD or Metatech would likely capture her attention more thoroughly, the comparative mundanity of emergency communication from her city speaker provided a moment of relief from the day's events. As she paused between engaging with admin and investigating the update, Astrea Kai realized that she had been feeling an evolving sense of anxiety, something deep within her inner reality, something fundamental, as if an instinctual fear of profound uncertainty was preparing for an eclipse, for casting the shadow of crisis across her confidence. She spent a single moment feeling pride for her ability to manage that dissonance. In the past, even within the past year, that unsettling sensation might have overwhelmed her, but she thought maybe it still could. In the meantime, she read the words of Advocate Johnston. Astrea Kai, I hope this message finds you safe and comfortable in the wake of today's incident. While I have not yet received clear communication from Unity regarding the gravity event, Overseer Raza has shared an outline for the next phase of our region's emergency response. You're welcome to ask admin for further details, but to summarize, a bundle of emergency supplies has been reserved for you and is available at the distribution center on Elwood Avenue. This kit includes rations, fresh water, medical supplies, and a heat mat blanket. We don't know exactly what we're dealing with here, but as always, we're here to help. If you have any questions, including about the performance of our response to today's crisis, please let admin know. I'll be on standby to provide updates and further information when possible. Thank you for your patience and understanding, Astrea. Advocate Latanya Johnston, Richmond City AAIC-77, 04.08.2086.16.55.12.N4. Admin, what's it like outside? I think I'm going to head over to Distro. Anything I should know? It is currently 68 degrees Fahrenheit, with a negligible chance of precipitation. I'd recommend taking your light cardigan and a backpack to accommodate the decline in temperature as the sun sets, and to alleviate the burden of collecting the supplies described in the report. Several of your neighbors are preparing to depart, so if you want the chance to check in with them, I would recommend walking. However, since the event, social services have cleared the roads between here and your destination, so biking is also a viable option. Thanks. I'll walk. Maybe I can see this buggy mod Ellie got earlier. I'll let you know if I need anything else. Of course, Astrea. You're very welcome. Enjoy your journey. After collecting her cardigan, backpack, wallet, and slate, Astrea Kai approached the front door for Hab, then retreated once again into her room. She nearly forgot to drink more water and to relocate the water she consumed earlier. Thankfully, the determination of her physical vehicle to attract her attention prevented her from needing to stop elsewhere along the impending walk. While the divergence wouldn't have qualified as a severe inconvenience, addressing the inevitable consequences of hydration at her home had thus far proven to be more efficient. Upon completing the task of waste management and sanitization, Astrea Kai contemplated the similarities between toilet technology and the inner workings of government. It occurred to her that an elected representative shares many qualities with a flush handle, a thought that elicited a singular chuckle from its inventor as she once again gathered her things, remembered to refill her water bottle, and crossed the threshold into the courtyard outside. And that's the end of Chapter 3. So that's all that I have. That's not all that I have written, but that's all that I've canonized for the story so far. And Astrea Kai is our protagonist. I wanted to read that for this video so that when we go to do the tarot reading, we'll have a better idea of who we're doing it for. Because what I'm imagining for Chapter 4, I guess I can bring this over here and then go to my full cam so I could tell you a little more closely. What I'm imagining for Chapter 4 is Astrea Kai goes outside. It just happens to be around the same time that Ellie And I think Ellie's partner, I want to invent that person. I haven't done that yet. Ellie and Ellie's partner are about to leave. I believe that Ellie's partner is going to be in a wheelchair, which is not a problem. People in wheelchairs in this world can get anywhere they want, basically. Accessibility has been like a really big focus on urban design and development over the past 50 years or so. So I want to set that up because I think it's important to be able to see the effects of urban design from the perspective of someone who really needs it to be good in order for them to live their lives the way that they want to. So Ellie and her partner are going to be they're going to be the next thing that happens in the story. We'll describe the environment just outside of Astrea Kai's house, which is like a little courtyard. She lives on a plot of land. It's like an alternative to suburban living. You know how people have like massive yards and big houses and everything. I researched to find the average plot size in a particular area, and then used that in a map maker to design the living spaces that could go there. So everything is, well, not everything, but all of the new stuff is easily repeatable. It's modular, so you can do customization however you want. My friend says, I also think it's important to see the effects of urban planning and accessibility. I really like that idea. Yeah, so that's why I want to include that. I've got a lot of research I've been doing to figure out what the challenges are in designing or integrating accessibility into urban design. So I have a few notes that I've put together for that particular thing as well. But Ellie, her partner, and Astrea Kai are going to walk down the street to the distribution center in order to get the emergency supplies for the gravity event. From there, they're going to diverge. So chapter 4 is just going to be the walk to the distro, and then getting the supplies and then leaving. So it's going to end with Astrea Kai getting back outside. After that, and this is what I want to do the reading for, they're going to diverge for a little bit, but Ellie's going to invite Astrea over to their place, for a tarot reading, because that's what they do. They're very spiritual people, and also the idea occurred to me, and I really wanted to do that, so that's what I've done. So that's the general idea. That's the outline. That's what I'm going to be working on. But apparently it takes an hour to briefly talk about and to read through the first 3 chapters of the book that I'm writing, which is making me realize I have a lot of content for it. And all of it's free to access as well. This is going to be going up on YouTube. It's free right now. Anybody could stop by. Some people have been, but they haven't stuck around very long. Just random coincidence. So I have a spread that my friend wrote down. I don't think she designed it, but my friend wrote it down. I have a deck of cards as well, so I'm going to just get into that. The situation's going to be on the day of the gravity event, after Astrea Kai has spent time reading and writing and going out and seeing the effects, the impact that admin and the application of artificial intelligence in the realm of government has had. She's going to be in a place where, the future is very uncertain for everyone, right? Especially when gravity pauses. So she's going to be looking for maybe a sense of clarity. And doing a reading with Ellie is always a good time. Always a wild time. But we'll see what it's like, because I'm actually going to do a reading for that instead of trying to invent one. Because I have a strange tendency to have ridiculous readings, according to my friend. Especially unusual. But I've got a spread here for the reading. As Astrea Kai goes over to Ellie's house, I'm going to sit down. They're probably going to talk. Maybe I'll introduce drugs of some kind. We'll talk about how cannabis plays into this society, and how it plays into Astrea Kai's experience. So I haven't really spent much time. I have some concept art which you can get access to on Patreon. I think you have to pay for access to that, but some concept art where she was experiencing an altered consciousness state. So that's really cool. But this spread that I'm doing here, I don't have another camera, but it's called the Magic 7. So it's got 7 cards. Those cards represent, the first one is the past event leading up to the present state. So whatever that could be, we're going to look at that. We got to get in the mindset of Astrea Kai, who has just spent the day trying to survive the gravity event. I'm also thinking of hey, there you go. My friend posted a link. That's where you can find all of this stuff. The concept art, the actual chapters that I read earlier in this video, and chapter 4, the stuff that I'm working on now, is going to be in there too. But this reading for the protagonist, who has just been doing a lot of introspection on the day gravity pauses, is going to be trying to figure out what she's feeling, because she's feeling something is there, something is waiting for her, some revelation that is yet to arrive, to gain a sense of clarity. So the past event leading up to the present state, I think, is going to focus on what is relevant to what she's considering. The second card is the present state, so illustrating what it is that, trying to describe her current situation. The third card is the immediate future, which is going to be really helpful with the gravity event, because what happens next when gravity pauses. That's what we're going to try to find out. Number 4 is described as a suggested solution, and expanded as what you should do for more control over the situation. Number 5 is the current environment and or its effects on the matter. Number 6 is opposition. Number 7 is the result. I think we'll gain a greater sense of clarity on those as we read the cards leading up to it. I also have this book here, The Dreamer's Journal, by Barbara Moore. It's related to another deck, but it's got a description of all the cards I'm going to be using to try to understand what it is I'm looking at here, because I've never done a reading on my own before, so this is a first for me as well. But we're going to see how this goes. I have shuffled the deck. Now, this is my method, which is to just grab whatever card I feel like grabbing at the time. It seems to work out pretty well. My friend says, I believe in you. All right, so we're going to draw 1, 2, 3. I need one over here, and then one over here. And then we're going to do this one down here, and this one in the middle. I'm not feeling super in tune with everything, but I didn't feel that earlier when I did another reading that was talking about how, in order to make or help my book actually be received by people, I just have to keep being me, I guess. Trying to chill, trying to be heard, trying to be seen. Doing this on the internet, people don't seem to be sticking around for too long when they do. But, the number 2 is how viewers are described right now, and that's been pretty consistent, so thank you. for existing, first of all, but also for being here. I really appreciate that. But let's get into the reading after I drink some water. The water just attacked me. And it went straight up my nose. I wonder if that's a sign of anything. I don't think I've practiced enough to know what that could mean. But we'll keep it in mind as we keep going. So, we have our book, we have the cards, we have the spread. This first card represents the past event leading up to the present state, whatever the present state may be. The first card is Temperance. That actually sounds pretty good. I'll show you the card too, because it's really pretty. I'm not sure if you can read that, but that's Temperance. The first card, the past event leading up to present state. Major Arcana is in the first section. Temperance is number 14. So if we keep going, we'll find it. Here we go. So Temperance. This card is about balance, but not necessarily the way we think of balance. It does not mean equal amounts of everything all the time. It means remaining perfectly balanced no matter what else is going on, which means Temperance is always in motion to adjust to changing environments and situations. Sometimes she needs to pour a little more out of one chalice, sometimes the other. It all depends on what's going on around her. This card suggests that you watch your balance. Take the time to make sure your reactions, decisions, and words are appropriate for the situation at hand. You are advised to practice moderation and patience. This is no time for extreme behavior or melodramatic gestures. So the past event leading up to the present state. Well, I guess that just suggests that Astrea Kai's focus on remaining calm, on being fair, on understanding and growing, on adapting to different situations, that tendency or maybe that decision to pursue that style, I guess, that style, that relationship with her intuition and with her environment. I think that maybe that ties to a specific event, but I feel like for Astrea Kai, that would be a series of events. I feel like that would be a significant revelation that she had and a decision that she made in the face of it, which was to calm down, basically, is what I'm getting. To calm down. So her decision to calm down, to focus, to pursue clarity, to listen to her intuition has led her to this place where she has, even though she's facing a sense of confusion, that her intuition is like blocked, it seems, that there's something waiting for her that she has yet to experience. That decision to calm down has set her up really well for being able to sort through all of this, to find out what it is that she's supposed to remember. So calming down, I guess, was what led to now. The present state is number 2, which is over here. We have the Page of Cups, which is very, very pretty card there. Looks like a seaweed woman on a dolphin. That's pretty cool. I guess that's the page. The page was at the back, right after the Pentacles, the court cards. Here we go. The Page of Cups. So this is the present state. Okay, so this Page of Cups, it says, this page is sweet, sensitive, and creative. She is a dreamer, the type of girl that enchanted fish tell stories to. Oh yeah, I remember that. Her life is filled with rainbows and magic. She is intuitive and emotional. She loves openly and deeply. Perhaps she gives a bit too much of herself and risks getting hurt. She is constantly being inspired and is always on the verge of some new project or creation. That story the fish told her, she'll write it, illustrate, hand bind the book, and give it to that nice woman she just met the other day. Pages also represent messages, in this case possibly a message about a loved one, or a creative project, or possibly a love note. Okay, so emotional, creative, loving, that is the present state. Intuitive and inspired. That, I think, is pretty accurate to Astrea Kai's current situation, because she is in this chapter. I'm also going to include messages and connections to the other people in her life as well. So by the time she gets to this reading, she'll be feeling that love and that inspiration. She'll have had conversations where she has, she's described her day where she feels like there's something that she needs to write down. She's on the cusp, on the verge of some new project or creation. And yeah, so I could definitely work that in as well. So she decided to calm down, and now she's currently feeling that emotional depth, feeling that connection, which is good. I imagine she probably in the past had less significant, maybe more superficial relationships, but she's definitely in a good place, a good place for creation, a good place for connecting with those emotions and that intuition, which is perfect for capturing the gravity of the gravity event, just like she was saying in the writing. So that's her current state. In the immediate future, let's see what we have for that. Number 3. Number 3 is the 10 of Pentacles. There's a melting wall and a bunch of gnomes. The 10 of Pentacles. So her immediate future. I forget which one is which. I think it was the last one. Yeah. Okay. We go over to the 10 of Pentacles. And this is... oh, interesting. So the immediate future, the next thing that's going to happen, it says, well, actually, that's pretty good. This card represents a strong, secure foundation, usually based on family ties, whether a home or business. It also deals with legacies, received and given. You may either receive a legacy or small winnings to invest for the future, or you may acquire a home or business of your own, creating security for you and your loved ones. Another possibility is investing in the community in some way, through a scholarship fund or civic improvement. This card could play out several ways, but however it does, it'll be good, prosperous, and beneficial to you and your loved ones. Okay, so through her calming down, she's reached a point where at the gravity event, she feels very deep in her connection to herself, to her intuition, and to her family around her. Astrea Kai's story is very much focused on that personal experience, that interpersonal connection, through the connection to the past and through her connection to the future. So she's in the present between a lot of work has been done in this world. A lot of work has been done from the perspective of creativity and love and intuition. Systems and realities and perspectives have been designed to be supportive, to feed into the development and establishment of communities, to be able to elevate the collective experience of humanity. With the establishment of the network through the systems of admin, Astrea Kai could very well have the stuff that she's writing be read by people who would read it. I can't do that, really. I have to go on a public space and just hope people see it, hope people talk about it, hope people care. But not in the gravity of gravity. In the speculative future, what you would resonate with, what you would like, is shown to you. there's not all of this, all of this massive expense on marketing, and we don't have walls of ads that keep bothering us about things that we don't care about. You are told about things that you could use, you could have access to, and would benefit you. So the reality that she faces with the writing that she's doing is not nearly as difficult or hidden, I guess, as the reality that I'm facing. So the Ten of Pentacles being the immediate future makes sense because she would be capturing all of these ideas, all of these experiences, and sharing them. Having a strong, secure foundation, I think, could be expressed as well in the detailing of her relationships with the people in her life, the people mentioned in Chapter 2. They'll actually be reaching out to her, or maybe she'll be reaching out to them, whatever the case may be. She'll have that reaffirmed. She'll have that demonstrated. So it'll be good, prosperous, and beneficial to her and her loved ones. So in the immediate future, things are going to work out, I think. She's going to have more support. Things are going to feel more grounded. I think that speaks very positively of the world's response to the gravity event. I think maybe that could be related to what caused the gravity event as well. But I think at the same time, what caused it is irrelevant at this point. I might get into that later, but this is like a little window into Astrea Kai's world because she decided to calm down and to be more balanced in the way that she approaches things. She is in a very good place to build upon and to develop sustainable connections and to contribute positively to her community and to her environment. But the next one is, what are we at now? 4? The suggested solution, which is what she should do for more control over the situation. So right now it doesn't, I'm not getting like chaos as the reading. The reading's not telling me things are out of control. But to more, I guess, maybe to further that quest that she has, to have that revelation, to get that information, maybe this is how she could take the next step. Maybe this is something that could guide her. So number 4 is in the bottom position, and we have the High Priest, which is a really cool looking card. I like that. So in the High Priest, let's go ahead and read about that. So that's number 5. I'm assuming that's part of the Major Arcana. Let's see what it says. Okay, well, it's not number 5 in this deck, so I just got lucky with the other one. Let's try to find it. Is there a High Priest? I know there's a High Priestess. It's going to take a second, probably. The Empress, the Emperor, so there probably is. Like I said, I don't know anything about all of this. Well, I know a little bit. Hanged Man, Death. Yeah, I used to get Death in my readings all the time. I'm tired of that one. The Tower, the Star, the Moon, the Sun, Judgment, the World. I guess High Priest isn't in this one. Is High Priestess okay? I don't know. This I just read says use your intuition, so I'm going to go with the High Priestess. There we go. All right. So, yeah, actually, this is good. My friend says they stay the same numbers. Some decks just called the Major Arcana cards different things. Really? So I should go with 5 instead? I did read your comment. It's just delayed. Okay. Well, then why don't we do that, if that's how that works, because I didn't know that. We'll just go with the number. Okay, so to sum it up, she calmed down, which put her in a very creative and loving space to be able to write her reflections that I read at the beginning of the stream. Then she's going to be able to, in the immediate future, have a strong foundation to be able to contribute positively to her community, whether that be her friends and family or like the community that she's in. At this point, she's at her friend's house. In case you're just now joining, I'm doing a tarot reading for the protagonist of the book that I'm writing. Okay, so we'll go with 5 then, which is the Hierophant. Hierophant? I don't know. Okay, this is what this is. So this one is for the suggested solution. So something that'll help her have that impact. So something that'll help her get to that situation to have more control. This card indicates a perfect balance of belief with practice. It is a good omen if you are facing a problem, as it indicates that you know the solution, but you need to find a way to put it into practice. Yeah, that's her intuition is like guiding her for sure to reflect and to explore. So yeah, I got this in a reading recently as well. It was like whether I should keep writing this book or not. It was like, you know the solution, but you got to find a way to put it into practice. So here I am streaming. If you are asked to teach, this card reminds you to be a good teacher, always seeking to make wisdom clear to any students. It can also indicate that you should seek a teacher for yourself, perhaps a formal or semi-formal course of study. Maybe the Hierophant is asking you to imagine what your life would be like if you lived by what you believe. So in order to have more control over the situation, she needs to follow her intuition and to focus on communication, on being able to express what the things that she's realizing, the things she's navigating through, which I think will be... I think that'll be super helpful for her as well. I think that's really applicable. I've asked a similar question recently. Should I keep writing? Should I keep doing this? And the answer was, you know the answer. You just have to find a way to put it into practice. That's funny. So that's what she's doing. Now, this one I'm curious about. This is number 5. It says the current environment and or its effect on the matter. So what is the current environment? What is Gravity Day? And the speculative future? What are these things? Number 5 is over here. And we get the King of Cups, which is kind of in focus. I don't know. That should be good. So now we got to go find the kings. The Page, the Knight, the Queen... The King of Cups. Okay. So this is her current environment. And let's keep in mind that her current environment is the speculative future. It is this place where people are taken care of, where the net exists, where she's facing unemployment again, but it's not the worst thing ever. It's with admin who is there to help. It's with, the speaker, advocate Latanya Johnston, being there to help. She's just picked up emergency supplies, and she's at her friend's house who's trying to make sure that she's okay. This is what it says about the current environment. This king is peaceful, sensitive, affectionate, and calm. He loves his home and values family and a relaxed home life. He prefers to lead by teaching through gentle guidance. He may enjoy expressing himself creatively, but is even more supportive of others' creativity, sometimes at the expense of his own. He is generally friendly and caring, a very nice man to have around. He can be overly sentimental and may seem soft to those who don't know him well. So she is having all of these thoughts about like how to capture the gravity of the gravity event in an environment which is made to be supportive, made to be sentimental, to address or at least to recognize and make room for the individual's experience of their own existence, the emotional reality and the intelligence derived from exploring it. That's the current environment. Now, its effect on the matter, probably just going to be really nice to sit at home and write, right? That's probably what she's going to do tomorrow, because I can tell you, like, the players probably aren't going to want to play a game after gravity pauses. That would be ridiculous. I think one of them would. I would definitely be that one if I were part of the game. So being at home, maybe with her sister, maybe some other family, maybe like her little community as well, all being there to support her. And admin as well, teaching through gentle guidance. That really describes admin very well, I think. Okay. So that's the current environment. Now there's opposition. There are things attempting to prevent Astrea Kai from exploring these ideas, from writing her thoughts, from capturing the gravity, from doing what she wants, basically. Those things are described as the Ace of Cups. A beautiful card as well. We have the Ace of Cups. So for the Ace of Cups, so her environment is full of cups. She's what was that one, number 2? She's in a state of cups. And now the opposition is also cups. This is probably what my friend was saying about my readings being very focused. Okay, so we need the Ace of Cups, which is... Okay, so it goes Page, Knight, Queen, King. Where's the Ace? Is that probably part of the Cups section? I don't know. Yeah, it is. Okay, so we just gotta find the cups. There goes swords. Here go cups. Okay, so this is the opposition, or maybe it describes what. Oh yeah, I could see that. Okay, so this is what it says, and then we'll interpret it. It says, this card presents the gift of love. This can take the form of a new romantic interest, a creative desire, or a spiritual awakening. At this time, your life is filled with possibilities and abundant, joyful emotions. All you need to do is embrace the moment and use that energy for the start of something wonderful. So that makes sense. The opposition is, there are so many possibilities. It's finding that truth. It's following the intuition. It's, I guess, trusting that something wonderful is starting. That something wonderful can be started. So the opposition is actually nice. It's a nice thing. You could have nice things oppose you if you are intimidated by them, if you're worried about them. And she definitely is. She definitely is worried, as we saw in Chapter 3, with the eclipse of concern or whatever it was. I forget. Okay, so that is the opposition. But what is the results? So this is what I wanted to do, is figure out what the result could actually refer to. I think so far we're looking at the fact that Astrea Kai has calmed down. She is exploring that emotional landscape, her little window into reality, which she described in Chapter 2. And everything is probably going to play out if she trusts her environment, if she trusts her connections to others, if she, I guess, aligns herself with her creativity, her intuition. If she continues doing what she's doing, in other words, then it should play out fine. But what is the result? Here we go. This is why we needed to go with number 5, because this is the High Priestess. That's what we have now. So if we had done the High Priestess previously, I don't know what I would have done now. So thank you for that comment. That was very helpful. I didn't know that before. Okay, so the result of all of this is indeed the High Priestess. So after facing this situation where she's able to write down these things because she has calmed down, because she has put in that work to balance, to find balance, and in a very loving and helpful and supportive environment, she is trying to capture and share the ideas, which will bring her a sense of stability and support in her community. Her obstacle, like what's holding her back, is, I think, the fact that there are so many possibilities in the wake of the gravity event. Anything could happen. But overcoming that, I guess, decision paralyzation is going to be something good. I don't know. What is the High Priestess? Let's read. This card is about knowledge that you need and that can be revealed. This knowledge is beyond logic. You must access and trust your intuition if you hope to understand it. Refrain from action for a while and instead take the time to search within yourself for the wisdom you need to move on. It could also mark the beginning of a personal spiritual journey. On a mundane level, it suggests sharing knowledge and not keeping secrets. So if she goes in from this place of balance, from this place of love and support and community, and she continues questioning, to continue following her intuition, trying to figure out what this knowledge is, what the knowable unknown may be, what illumination she is seeking, then she will find it. That is going to happen. It will be revealed. It's not something that you can logic your way to, but it's something that you can understand if you look. So that's, yeah. So that's her reading. From that, she's probably going to continue writing, I guess. That would be my guess. Maybe going to bed first and then writing, maybe writing a little bit and then going to bed. I don't know. Depends on the vibe and how much has happened so far. So yeah, that's the reading for the protagonist of the book that I'm writing. I figured that would just be really fun, and I wasn't going to stream it. I wasn't going to record it or anything, but my friend said it would be really cool to see that. So I'm going to let him know that I actually did it and then send him the link to the video. Yeah, I was going to focus on building chapter 4, but I think actually doing this has given me a lot of ideas for what to include and where to build from there. Overall, seems like things are looking pretty good for the protagonist of the story that I'm writing. The readings I've done recently for myself have been promising as well. It's just really hard trying to exist and to be seen and to share these ideas. Because really I want to dismantle the capitalist paradigm so that people can calm down and be okay. But that's done through persisting, I guess. Continuing to be here, continuing to talk, continuing to share these ideas, even when it seems like no one is listening, when no one is paying attention. It's an exaggeration. You do exist, and I appreciate you very much. It's just the capitalist paradigm making me anxious. That's just what it is. So I'm actively dismantling that. And I think actively working towards some ending for the stream. I'm going to take a picture of this. I'm going to share all of this stuff on Patreon. I'm going to write it down at some point. And then it'll be there for free. You can check it out. A ton of stuff there is for free. You can read the book as well. But I guess that's about all I have. If anybody had any questions, they could submit literally right now, because by the time I read them, it'll already be over. That would be great. Otherwise, I think I'll end it there. I think that'll be today's stream. So for those of you still here, thank you. For those of you who stopped by, you're probably not going to hear this message, but if you do, thank you. And for those of you who find this later, thank you. I'm so glad all of you exist. You're absolutely incredible, and I'm very deeply grateful. So yeah, I'll end it there, and then listen to my lovely little song, and then stop being live on the internet. Yeah, thanks again. Thank you for existing. I look forward to our next conversation.